Have you ever had this happen? You are not really shopping. You are just scrolling. And then you see it. $9.99. Free shipping. Limited time. Only 3 left. You did not wake up wanting this thing. You did not plan for it. But the moment you see that price, a tiny voice in your brain goes, "If I do not buy this, am I losing money?" So you click. And then the price starts to change. The better color costs extra. The normal size is sold out. The accessory costs extra. Faster delivery costs extra. By the time you get to checkout, this is no longer the price that pulled you in. But somehow, you are still more likely to buy it. Because you are no longer making a decision from zero. You have already accepted the idea that this thing is cheap. And that is the real story. Cheap is not the problem. There is nothing wrong with a good deal. The problem is that some cheap things are not designed to save you money. They are designed to get you inside. Expensive things can scare you away immediately. Cheap things do something much smarter. They lower the doorway. They make the decision feel so small that it almost does not feel like a decision. It is just one drink. Just a few dollars a month. Just a cheap flight. Just a free trial. Just a little thing on sale. But a lot of modern traps do not need you to make one huge mistake. They only need you to say one sentence. It is not that much. In 2012, the Federal Trade Commission held a workshop on a pricing tactic called drip pricing. The idea is simple. A company shows you only part of the price at the beginning. Then, as you move through the buying process, extra costs start dripping in. One fee. Then another fee. Then another fee. You see a hotel room that looks affordable. You click. Then come the cleaning fees, service fees, resort fees, taxes, and other charges. Also, in 2012, the FTC sent warning letters to 22 hotel operators. The issue was that some hotel websites were showing room prices without clearly including mandatory resort fees in the total price. In that warning letter, the FTC said some of those mandatory fees could be as high as $30 per night. Now imagine staying 3 nights. That is not a tiny detail anymore. Or think about concert tickets. At first, you see one price. You start imagining the seat, the night, the friends, the whole experience. Then, right before checkout, you get hit with service fees, processing fees, delivery fees, facility fees. Or budget airlines. The ticket looks ridiculously cheap. But choosing a seat costs money. Checking a bag costs money. Sometimes even bringing a carry-on costs money. Changing the flight costs money. And if you want the trip to be even slightly less miserable, that may cost money too. So the product is not simply expensive. That would be too easy to notice. If the full price were shown to you at the beginning, you might close the page immediately. But that is not how the system works. First, it gives you a beautiful low number. Then it makes you spend time. Choose the date. Choose the room. Choose the seat. Enter your information. Picture the trip. Imagine the thing already happening. And by the time you reach the final step, going back feels annoying. The extra fees no longer feel like a brand new decision. They feel like an interruption. So you think, whatever. I am already here. That is the genius of the cheap entry point. It is not really selling you cheap. It is selling you momentum. And this is why hidden fees work so well. When the extra costs appear later, instead of at the beginning, people are more likely to stop comparing too early. Your brain hates recalculating. Once it has already labeled something as a good deal, every new fee feels like a small annoyance. Not a reason to judge the entire purchase again. It is like walking into a store because the sign outside says, up to 90% off. You were not attracted by the final price. You were attracted by the feeling that you might find a deal. But once you are inside, you are not only spending money, you are spending attention. you are spending time. And slowly, you are spending judgment. Some cheap things are even more powerful because they are not a one-time trap. They are cheap at the entrance and expensive after you are inside. The classic example is the razor and the blades. The handle can be cheap. Sometimes it can almost feel free. Because the real money is not in the first handle. The real money is in the blades you have to keep buying. Printers work the same way. You buy a printer and think, why is this machine so cheap? Then you start using it, and the ink cartridges become a tiny toll booth. The machine gets you in. The refills become the road you keep paying to drive on. That is what makes this model so dangerous. It changes what you compare. You are not comparing the total cost over 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years. You are comparing the entry fee right now. And the entry fee is exactly what companies want you to focus on. Because the lower the entry fee feels, the lower your defenses become. So why does cheap become a trap? First, because it separates the full cost into smaller pieces. You only see the easiest piece first. Second, because it pushes the real cost into the future. You do not feel the pain today. Third, because it gets you invested before the price goes up. By the time the real cost appears, you do not want to start over. Subscriptions are built on this idea too. First month free. 3 months for half price. Student plan. Trial price. New customer discount. Those offers are not automatically bad. The problem is what they make you forget. You are not only buying the first month. You are opening a small door for every month after that. Signing up takes 10 seconds. Cancelling may require finding the right page, entering a password, choosing a reason, confirming again, and then being asked one more time if you are really sure. That is not an accident. Many products are not designed to make you ask yourself every month, do I still need this? They are designed to make you stop asking. Once something becomes an automatic payment, you are not only losing money, you are losing a chance to choose again. The cheap trial is the doorway. Auto-renewal is the hallway behind it. And this is why so many people reach the end of the month and think, wait, where did my money go? It was not eaten by one giant monster. It was drained by a dozen tiny straws. Each straw is so thin that it does not feel worth checking. But together, they turn your wallet into a leaking bucket. There is another kind of cheap that is even quieter. Cheap quality. Expensive use. A very cheap shirt looks like a smart purchase. But after a few washes, it loses its shape. After a few wears, it starts pilling. So you buy another one, then another one. And in the end, you may not spend less than if you had bought one better item. You only feel more disciplined each time you pay. A cheap chair hurts your back. A cheap suitcase breaks at the wheel. A cheap charging cable fails after a few weeks. These things are cheap on the receipt, but they move the cost somewhere else. Into your time, into your body, into your frustration, into the hours you spend replacing, returning, repairing, and dealing with the same problem again. This is why the idea of total cost of ownership matters. The cost of something is not just the price at checkout. It is everything you pay from the moment you bring it home to the moment you are truly done with it. The purchase price, the refills, the maintenance, the repairs, the returns, the learning curve, the time, the space it takes up, the attention it keeps demanding from you. You think you bought a cheap product. Sometimes what you really bought is a small problem that now lives in your house. So cheap is not just a price. Cheap is a story. It tells you, this is not important. Do not think too hard. Do not overanalyze it. Just take it. And many consumer systems make money from that exact feeling. They do not need you to make one obviously terrible decision. They just need you to make a lot of tiny decisions that look harmless. So small you will not review them. So small you will not track them. So small you almost feel silly questioning them. Because you think, come on, it is only a few dollars. But one of the things modern business understands extremely well is how to slice a large cost into pieces small enough that none of them trigger your alarm. A coffee, a subscription, a small accessory, a delivery fee, an extended warranty, an upgrade, faster shipping, just a little more. Each one feels like a drop of water. But if the drops keep falling long enough, they can wear a hole through your budget. So does this mean you should never buy cheap things? Of course not. Some cheap things are actually cheap. If the quality is the same and the channel is cheaper, that is a real deal. If it is something you already needed and it happens to be on sale, that is fine. If there is no hidden fee, no subscription trap, no special refill, no time sync, no future lock-in, then cheap can simply be cheap. The thing to be careful with is the kind of cheap that lets you see the beginning but hides the rest of the road. So, the next time something looks extremely cheap, ask 3 questions. First, what is the full price? Not just the front page price. Look for taxes, shipping, service fees, accessories, refills, renewal costs, cancellation costs, and return costs. If you can only see the real price at the very last step, the system may not be helping you compare. It may be stopping you from comparing. Second, does this turn a one-time purchase into a long-term relationship? Subscriptions, refills, maintenance, memberships, special accessories, locked platforms. If buying it means you have to keep returning to the same payment gate, then the first price is not the full story. Third, is this solving a problem or creating a future problem? If the cheap thing breaks quickly, is hard to use, takes up space, wastes time, or becomes something you regret, then it is not really cheap. It is a problem packaged as a discount. You pay money to bring it home. Then you pay time to get rid of it. Here is a simple test. Do not only ask, how much does this cost? Ask, if I already own this for 3 months, would I still think it was cheap? That question works because the trap usually does not feel heavy at the moment of purchase. It feels light. So light that you barely notice you are making a decision. But 3 months later, you see the real weight. A subscription you forgot to cancel. A pile of cheap clothes you barely wore. A cheap printer surrounded by expensive ink. A cheap flight followed by a stack of fees. A product that saved you $20 and then stole your entire Saturday in returns and customer support. That is the most dangerous part of cheap. It does not just make you spend money. It makes you feel like you are not spending money. It lowers your guard. It hides the full cost. It wraps tomorrow's trouble in today's discount. So smart spending is not about always buying expensive things. And it is not about always buying the cheapest thing. It is about seeing the full cost, the time behind the price, the attention behind the price, the maintenance behind the price, the subscription behind the price, the replacement behind the price, the exit cost behind the price. If something is cheap and the full cost is also low, then it is a real deal. But if something is only cheap at the entrance and more expensive after you step inside, then it is not a discount. It is a door. The sign on the door says, cheap. Behind the door is the bill. So the next time you see a price that feels too good to ignore, do not only ask, am I getting a deal? Ask, why are they willing to make this so cheap? Because a lot of the time, the answer is not generosity. It is because they know that once you walk in, the road behind the cheap price is not cheap at all. Cheap can be an opportunity, but cheap can also be an entrance. The difference is whether you only see the price or whether you can see the road behind it.